members, Senator Natalia Fernandez, Senator Patricia Fahey, Senator Roxanne Persaud, Senator Patricia Cancenari Fitzpatrick, and Senator Jacob Ashby. We're very formal this afternoon.
Thank you, Senator. I'm Assemblymember Joanne Simon. I'm co-chair of the General Conference Mental Hygiene Subcommittee and chair of the Assembly Mental Health Committee. I'd like to introduce the following Assembly members who are joining me today. Assemblymember Phil Steck, Assemblymember Steve Stern, I keep saying member, it says man here, Assemblyman Angela Santa Barbara, Assemblyman Kwame O'Farrow, Assemblywoman Lorinda Hooks, Assemblywoman Jody Giglio, and Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. I will now go over the Joint Budget Committee guidelines. So the subcommittee guidelines, the co-chairs will determine all matters of parliamentary procedure unless otherwise specified by the rules. Any dispute with regard to a procedure that cannot be resolved by the co-chairs will be referred back to the General Conference Committee and would be resolved by the co-chairs of the General Conference Committee. The co-chairs shall designate a staff person to serve as secretary for the purpose of the minutes. An alternate may participate in a subcommittee meeting, but shall not vote upon any deliberations of a subcommittee unless he or she has been designated to fill an excused vacancy on a subcommittee. That designation would be made by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee, representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. If such a vacancy is in a minority seat on the subcommittee, then the designation shall be made upon the recommendation of the respective House's minority representative of the General Conference Committee. Such designation shall be made as soon as practicable by the appropriate co-chair by providing notice to the other co-chair of the General Conference Committee. An excused absence in the General Conference Committee may be filled by a temporary designation of a member by the co-chair of the General Conference Committee representing the House in which the excused vacancy exists. No subcommittee members or alternate members shall be permitted to participate via proxy. Subcommittees shall restrict their deliberations to their respective subject areas as determined by the General Conference Committee. Any issues which are determined to be non-germane by the co-chairs shall be referred back to the General Conference Committee. Each member shall be permitted a reasonable period of time as determined by the co-chairs to discuss any matter germane to the subject area of the subcommittee. And finally, no report shall be filed except upon the affirmative vote of a majority of the members of each House's delegation on the subcommittee. Sierra Stevenson will serve as the recording secretary for the Assembly.
And Ankisha Murray will serve as the recording secretary for the Senate. As a reminder, the agencies to be discussed at the Mental Hygiene Joint Conference Committee include the Department of Mental Hygiene, Office of Addiction Services and Supports, the Office of Mental Health, the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, the State Council on Developmental Disabilities, and the Justice Center for People with Special Needs.
We look forward to continuing conversations with the executive to get to a three-way agreement on the items of importance to the legislature. We have a lot of work to do this year, as you may know, and we're looking forward to getting to work for the people of the state of New York.
Agreed, Assemblymember. We look forward to reaching not just three-way agreement, but also restoring vital funding for addiction treatment, support services, mental and behavioral health programs, greater investments in our workforce, and finally passing transformative crisis intervention services like Daniel's Law, in addition to making sure that our direct service providers are earning livable wages.
Do you want to go to your members?
Doing it.
I'm sorry. Okay. Upon consultation with the senator, we're just going to close the conference committee, unless members of the Assembly really want to say something.
It would take
Assemblymember
a minute.
Steck,
Yeah.
chair of our Substance Abuse and Alcohol Services Committee.
If I can turn on my, yes,
There
I
you
can,
go.
brilliant. So I just wanted to point out that there was more agreement this year with the governor's proposals than in the past. We strongly support continuing to add increased funding to those programs that serve both the concurrent mental health and substance use disorder, and also that we want to make sure that the 7.8% increase, that there are guarantees that money will go to the workforce that is performing the work. And that's all.
Yeah.
All right, and I will open it to Senator Cancenari Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say that I was very pleased to see that the Senate and Assembly One House proposals both had a 7.8% COLA increase, as opposed to the governor's proposal of 2.1%, which would fall short of even the prior year's inflation. When you factor in the years of underinvestment, it's all the more important that we ensure the 7.8% increase makes it into the final budget, since our workforce is our most vital asset. This budget also contemplates how we respond to people suffering from mental health crises in emergency situations, an area that I think we can all agree needs improvement. The Senate One House includes Daniel's Law, an initiative which I fully support the intent of. I will just reiterate my comments that I made during the Mental Health Committee, that I hope we will ensure that there's continued involvement with law enforcement in developing these emergencies and crisis service plans, such as by ensuring that at least one member of the council is a member of law enforcement. I think that's critical, not only for the safety of our first responders, but the individuals in crisis as well. Thank you, Chair.
Assemblyman Santa Barbara, Chair of the Disabilities Committee.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to also add my support for the 7.8% in the final budget for the direct care workforce. That is a critical issue. I know there are some other outstanding issues that we'll continue to work on, but that is one of the main issues that, again, it's in both of our budgets, the One House, Assembly, and Senate. So I think it's critical that we hold the line on the 7.8% as we go forward, and look forward to continue working on the other open items.
Thank you. Senator Fernandez?
Thank you so much. As chair of the Substance Use Disorder Committee, as my counterpart did mention, this wasn't the worst budget. We're happy to see that no dollars were reduced. And of course, we would always want to see more in the work that's being done. But this budget is reflective of values, making sure that recovery services like vocational and job training for those in recovery are there, in addition to supporting some versions of legislation that we have introduced in the past. But ultimately, this budget is reflective of our values, hoping that the 7.8 COLA does stay and is fulfilled, because those in the workforce really do deserve the pay raise, and it's what's needed to sustain them and keep them in the workforce. So thank you to my colleagues for all of your advocacy as well, and I look forward to continuing this budget process.
Jody. Assemblywoman Jody Giglio, who I knew what you would want to say something. I was asking the other members down the line first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank the Senate and the Assembly One House bills for having the 7.8% increase in the budget. We are calling it a targeted inflationary increase, but it's really a lagged inflationary increase, because they have not gotten their increases for the past fortunately, for the last 4 years, they have gotten an increase, but it hasn't kept up with inflation. And prior to that, there were no increases. So they're still falling behind and trying to keep up with current inflationary costs. So I'm hoping that the 7.8% makes it to the finish line. And I want to thank everybody that is supporting it, because I know that we all are, and I am respectful of the governor's budget and her job that she has to do. But this is a very important, like I said, it's a lagged inflationary increase that they have not gotten for many years. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, on the Senate side, I'll hand it over to Senator Fahey.
Thank you. As the new chair of the Disabilities Committee, I just want to add that it's an honor to be here and look forward to working with all of you. I commend the governor, as others have said. We started with a pretty darn good budget this year, which is incredibly encouraging. Yes, there are things we want to build on, including her work and investments on those with mental health needs, as well as those with disabilities. And yes, a continued focus on the DSPs, or direct service providers, and their wages is something that will be a priority, as well as the capital investments in our homes and in our facilities is also a priority. Thank you so much, Chair.
And finally, I'm going to call upon Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski, who is the ranking member of the Mental Health Committee.
Thank you, Chair. I want to point out, and one of the reasons I was so happy to be assigned as the ranker on mental health, and also I serve with Ms. Giglio on the minority side of the people with disabilities, is you have a lot of people on this panel who probably have profound disagreements on a lot of other issues, but you put us all in this room dealing with the mental hygiene area, and we have a really broad consensus on the 7.8 TII, COLA, whatever you want to call that. And so I was very proud to be part of the one of the voices for that during the budget hearings, alongside, again, majority, minority, Senate, and Assembly legislative members. And you saw that reflected in the one House budgets, that we have a consensus that these people really do need to be paid the proper wage, and not keeping up with inflation really is a cut. There's some differences on some of the mental illness side of things. I do want to point out that leaving people in a vulnerable position is not compassion. So the governor has some points to be made as far as how we deal with folks that are in crisis, the public safety to them and to others. But on the TII/COLA, seeing such profound consensus from the legislative side is a really heartening thing.
Thank you, Assemblyman, and no one is suggesting that, but I appreciate it. And so, Senator?
Thank you. I want to thank all of our members here. We obviously have a lot of good work to do. With that, staff is in consultation with members, and we will continue this work through these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.